This week's Nifty Gifties and F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new laptop, tablet, desperately seeking an Xbox, games, or a whole lot more, you can find them all at the Microsoft Store. And remember that current students, faculty, parents, and active military can save up to 10% on almost everything. To browse the products that are available and learn about all of the discounts that you might be able to get, you can go to f5live.tv/Microsoft. All right, we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but right to repair laws have been a hot subject. Most people believe that when they purchase a device, it entitles them to, I don't know, own that device. Then there are companies that feel a little differently and seem to think that just because you've purchased it does not mean you can do things like change the battery. Avram and I have been lamenting the loss of the ability to change a cell phone battery, for example, for a decade or more.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, it's very frustrating.
Indeed it is. Now, not every company went this direction. Almost right up until the end, Nokia phones still had the ability to change batteries. I've got lots of them around. You could get into and make changes if you needed to. But obviously, most notoriously has been Apple. Their laptops, their phones, their everything have been sealed for a very long time. And more importantly, there's like retribution against people who want to try and get around the seal and all of that and try and fix their computer themselves or their phone themselves. There's software you have to run after it's been open. It's kind of insane. There's been some work in some states done to allow you the ability to make changes to devices, but this week, Avram's state of New York passed what is absolutely the most comprehensive right to repair law in the country. If signed by the governor, which of course it will be, individuals and third-party repair centers will be able to get a hold of hardware and software, parts and manuals to be able to make changes and make repairs to their devices, which I think is a wonderful situation and way overdue.
Well, obviously, I agree with that. I think the interesting question is to what extent will the manufacturer have to support your effort?
Mm-hmm.
Because this definitely, definitely creates obligations for the manufacturer. So I'm looking at my Google Pixel phone here. Is Google now required to provide me with instructions on how to open it? Are they required to make phones that are easier to open? Are they required to sell replacement parts? Like, what is, what are the obligations on the manufacturer?
1 and 3 are yes, 2 is no. Yes, they're required to give you instructions on how to open it safely. They are required to make available the tools to do so and the parts to fix it. They are not required to make their devices any easier to open.
Right. So, now, is there any? Can they void your warranty for doing this, or is that
A fair question.
covered?
It's a fair question. My guess is that they would be allowed to do that. Just like
Although to be
just
fair, the reason most of us are repairing it is because it's not covered under warranty.
exactly,
So
exactly. So yeah, my guess is that it will still void your warranty by opening it yourself. I'm seeing if the word warranty is in the document. But either way, even if it does, you're still, like you said, the reason you're doing it. The only place Okay, nothing in this section shall be construed to alter the terms of any arrangement described in paragraph A, whatever that is, of subdivision 1 of this section. Enforced between an authorized repair provider and original equipment manufacturer, including but not limited to the performance or provisioning of warranty. Okay, so yes, just like in the past, with most computers, like pre-built computers or laptops and other electronic devices, once you open it, you've voided your warranty. But like you said, the reason you're doing it is because it's not under warranty, because it's going to cost too much to have Apple replace your screen at, 3/4 of the price of a phone versus taking it down the street to a repair shop who knows how to do it and just having it done, or doing it yourself for, a third of that price.
I mean, this sort of is. I mean, one interesting question is how much change this is actually going to affect, because for most popular phones, there are stores that will, third parties that will repair it for you,
Mm-hmm.
and then there are kits that you can find from places like iFixit that do this, even in the absence of right to repair laws.
Right.
Does this just kind of shield those folks from being sued?
So it does some of that, but it also deals with, Apple's MacBook issue, where if you unseal a MacBook out of their stores, software has to be run on it to verify the equipment inside. I
So they
mean,
would have to. So they would have to update it. So I'm sure that Apple will sue. Um,
absolutely.
I'm sure that Apple will sue to prevent this from happening, um, and this will go up to some. This will go through the court
Hmm.
for a while, and we'll have to see. And just like with the App Store, they will make the spurious claim that this is for your own good,
Yeah.
because you have to have our parts, our genuine parts, put in by our genuine Apple geniuses, which costs a lot more, right? So
Absolutely.
everybody believes that you should use their genuine parts because everybody wants to make the money off of you. Uh, so it's hard to say. I mean,
Yeah.
a
And it's
few months.
it's interesting because one of the last topics we talked about on the show,
Yeah.
in one of the last episodes, was about Samsung and their relationship with iFixit, right? And that they had established a strong relationship to make parts and things more available to eliminate e-waste. And within 3 or 4 days of our episode, Google made a similar announcement. Now, I don't know if they smelled this in the water and wanted to try and
Yeah.
get ahead of what New York was up to, but there's no way Apple
I
has
mean,
that same mentality.
a lot of companies, to be fair, a lot of companies want to represent themselves as being green.
Right. And that's
Now,
a good way of doing it.
I love getting new devices as much as anybody probably, but the greenest thing that you can do instead of recycling is use something longer,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So the greenest thing is, instead of recycling your phone, is to keep using your phone. So when you make a product that is, planned obsolescence, then you have a problem. And like the sealed in batteries are the best example of that. I mean, yes, you can pay someone to get it replaced, but when it becomes super expensive, it's not worth, I mean, you're not going to spend 100, 200, like $300 to get a new. I don't know what it costs to go to the Apple store and get a new battery for your iPhone, but
A
you
lot.
know yeah, it's now, what could happen as a result of the competition here is that places like Apple might be forced to actually charge
True.
reasonable prices for something, for a battery, and then they would be more in the game. Because, yeah, I mean, that's the thing with batteries, right? They always want you to use their battery, and I've had companies say things to me like, well, you don't know if the other batteries are safe or not. And to be fair, there's not a great bunch of like well-known brands in the like replacement laptop and phone battery
Right.
space. Like
It's
you can go
basically
on Amazon and
it's Lexar.
yeah,
Past them,
yeah.
I
I
don't know any
mean,
brand.
maybe, but there's like a lot of things I've gone on where it's like, oh yeah, I want to see if I can get a new battery for this old laptop. Oh yeah, there's a bunch on eBay. They say that they're genuine, but I don't know where they actually came from.
Right.
Like, do I trust them? Batteries are a little bit more of a, you know, something I'm a little bit more worried about than other components because if a faulty battery can be a fire hazard. So on the other hand, most of the time it's fine. So what do you do? Like I recall a few, maybe it was 6 months, more than that, maybe like three quarters of a year ago. My son has been using. This is a perfect example of keep using old stuff, right? Especially if you have family, kids, whatever. Pass down your old stuff to the next person, right? So my old ThinkPad that I bought in 2014, I think it was, a couple of years ago. I gave it to my son, and he's really hard on that thing,
Hmm.
and the keyboard broke a little bit. Like a couple of the keys, like the keycaps came off and couldn't go back on. And I looked, and it was like really, really expensive to buy a replacement ThinkPad keyboard from Lenovo
Yeah.
for this old laptop that in and of itself is probably not worth more than $300. So I looked, and I think Amazon, somebody had one where they said this is a genuine made in the same factory or whatever, so they claim, Lenovo keyboard, and it was like $30. I was like, $30 is about what I want to spend on
Sure.
this. And so I got it, and it worked, but I can tell that the quality is
Different.
some of the keys stick a little bit. The feel is not quite what I expect. But on the other hand, if you're kind of keeping afloat an old device just for hey, I'm going to keep this afloat for another couple years, you don't want to spend a lot of money on it, because at that point
Sure.
it's like, why don't I just buy a new one? So that's the thing about replacement parts. If the replacement parts are too expensive, it's a really big disincentive to buy them, to not buy a new one, because like, if I'm spending this much, why don't I just spend a little more and get a whole new one?
True. Yeah. To- totally makes sense. I think, like you said, I think this is has the ability to push some stuff, right? I think there are some competition changes that could come from this, which will be
Yeah.
really good for the market as a whole. So I definitely look forward to seeing what comes of this. Don't know what it'll be. Almost certainly, like you said, a lawsuit from at least Apple. But a lot of companies are trying to look better in the eyes of their customers on the green space and stuff like that. So there's a very real possibility that most companies are either going to embrace this in a big way, or at least not fight it. So I think that's good for everybody involved. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of F5 Live Refreshing Technology. If you did, please subscribe to the channel down below, and of course, hit the notification bell, because we know that subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. If you've got topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future, please comment them down below. And if you'd like to not follow us on YouTube, there's lots of ways that you can follow along with our content by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.